there, ref. That's he got the ball. Yes, good afternoon, Tottenham fans. Welcome back to the Irish Hotspur with your boys Dave, Jack, Sarr, and Dermot, building you up to this big cup game at Newcastle tonight, which I'm absolutely excited about. It's a break from sort of league football, the domestic league campaign, and it is back to knockout football, where one game can, reap so many rewards, or one game can sort of, take one piece of silverware off the table. And I don't want to hear anybody in my chat today saying, oh, there's no pressure on Thomas Frank today. He put it on himself when he said he wants to deliver silverware at Tottenham and he would like to do it this season. So you're just not on the Frank train if you're saying, we shouldn't want to win today's game. But look, Jack, how are you, my man? How are you keeping?
Looking forward to potentially the biggest test yet, I think, for Thomas Frank this season. And like you say there, he could build off of the last win where he was already maybe under a bit of pressure, and then he would absolutely be flying high, and I think there would be a lot of maybe answers for the questions that have been asked of him. So I'm looking forward to it because I do think this is his biggest game yet as the Spurs manager, and we'll see what comes of it. And it would be nice as well to finally get this Newcastle curse broken, because the fact that the last time we had won there was seeing Tanguy and Ndombele and Nuno Espirito Santo, as the people there. It just shows how long it's been since we've gotten anything over there.
Well, look, he's already broke the West Ham curse. He's already broke the international curse. He's already broke the Everton away curse. He's also broke our away record curse. So, what's another one to the belt tonight, Jack?
Yeah.
Dermot, how are you, sir?
I'm buzzing. I mean, it's another trip to Wembley, isn't it? We beat Newcastle tonight. We'll go all the way to Wembley. 2014-15, 4-0 up at their place. Where did we go? Wembley. 2009, 2008, 2009. Was it 2009, 2010 season? 2008, 2009. Beat them up there 2-1 on our way to Wembley. So, of course, beat them tonight. We're going to get to Wembley. So, another trophy for Spurs to lift at the end in February. So, come on, you Spurs.
Well, of course, Newcastle are the current holders, so, that shows the magnitude of the job tonight away from home, trying to knock out the current holders. But, I'm excited. I think there's every reason to be optimistic. We're defensively, we're resilient. We don't give away an awful lot. And, although we're not pretty on the eye, we can't score goals from set pieces, which gives us a chance of winning the game. So, I think it's a big difference this year that I'm going into games thinking, there's a way of winning it rather than sort of going into it last year expecting a loss, I think, which is absolutely huge. But, Sarr, I mean, look, you've had a whirlwind 24 hours, my man. How are you feeling ahead of today's game?
First of all, I just want to say, when you say we're not pretty on the eye, look, I mean, how can you say that when you've got me on the channel? Of course, we're pretty on the eye, but no, seriously, it's going to be a tough one. It's always tough going up there. It's always tough going into their ground. And as long as we don't have the same as that, was it under Conte? That the absolute drumming in the first 20, 25 minutes. Keep it tight, keep the game alive, and I think we could nick it tonight. I think it's it is going to be a hard game, and let's just hope he doesn't make too many changes. I think there will be some changes, but let's just hope. Well, we can't, but I think he will. And let's just hope we keep it pretty strong. Really shore up that midfield as well. And yeah, I see a tight win. I do. I see a tight win, and like Dermo says, let's hope it's all the way to Wembley, and let's hope that there is silverware at the end of it. We deserve it. We need it.
Look, it'd be unbelievable to get a cup run. I think, even when things don't go well in the league, even if you've got the cup to hold on to, I mean, look, as things bad were in the league last year, getting to the semi-final of the Carabao Cup and dragging it all the way out to December, sort of kept me on board a little bit. It's when we went out of that where I sort of threw my toys out the pram and stuff like that. But, cup run for me, I think, I'd absolutely love one this year. It'd be absolutely brilliant. Another one. But, I feel like if we do come up against Liverpool or someone like that, we have the capabilities of beating them this time around because we just have that little bit of extra quality maybe that we were lacking in years gone by. But look, let's welcome a few people in the chat and then let's kick on because we've got a few things to discuss tonight. But look, rotation would be interesting because I think there's up to 14 players missing tonight. I mean, look, absolutely madness. By the way, quiz question: who are we blaming for the injuries this time around? That's the elephant in the room.
It's the ghost of Ange, Dave. It's the ghost. It's
I'm just wondering. William Webb says, big up, guys. Spurs will come away with a 2-1 win tonight. I really do hope so, William Webb. I do love a cup run. Limpy Down Under says Newcastle will be a tough team to beat tonight. We need to be more clinical. Absolutely. Look, the pressure is going to be on for the first 30 minutes. You know, the atmosphere they generate under the lights, you know, midweek, it sort of becomes one of the most intimidating atmospheres in the country. And they're going to use that. They're going to come at us and throw everything at us for the first 15, 25, 30 minutes. So I think Thomas's frank lineup will be absolutely crucial in being, you know, in determining how we're going to handle that period. Because for me, that's, I think, where the game will be won and lost. If we can survive that, I think there's every opportunity we come away tonight with a win. Tekken says, Coys, missed Sunday's game, first game in years. Sister was over from Ireland. Let the Yids make magpies and massive them with some Porsley liquor. Finish from outside the boxy bosh. Big up, everyone. Big up, my man. Good to see you, Tekken. I can see you're in absolutely great mood today, my man. We've got Harmless Potato. Good evening, all. Come on, you Spurs. Slim Boy Tubbs says, big up, one and all. Come on, you Spurs. Good to see you. Patricia's in the house. Says, guys, good to see you, Patricia. We also have Orisham says, we better perform tonight. Look, I hope we do. Rain says, evening, I'm here for the lineup meltdown. Well, look, we'll see. We'll see. Like I said, for me, it's all about picking the right lineup to survive the first 30 minutes here away at St. James's Park. Daniel Phil says, big up, Mr. Irish lad, and all. Good to see you, Daniel. Hopefully you're keeping well. We also have Mark New. Big up, Dave, Jack, and panel. Injuries, rotation. We got to raise our game. Get in there, you Tottenham. And then Daniel Field also says, choo-choo. We've also got Wayne Bonner. Happy Spurs Day, folks. Hope you're all well. Love a cup game. Should be a good one tonight. Interesting to see who Frank plays. I mean, look, the lineup will be very interesting. But like I said, there's only so much rotation we can do with the players that, or the amount of players that we've got out injured. Shem Tam says, afternoon, Dave, Jack, and Dermot and Soren. Hope you're all doing well today and ready for St. James's Day out under the lights. Hopefully we can carry on with another away win. That would be absolutely brilliant if we could, Shem Tam. Like I said, you know, we're unbeaten away from home this year, one of the best away records in the Premier League. There's every reason to be optimistic. J Max says, big up, Davey, Jacko, Soren, and Dermot. Come on, you Spurs. Good to see you. And then Daniel Field also says, all this Frank out trivia is complete bollocks. And he says, big up, Dermo. And then Finn Rickwood says, big up, lads, and Flat Cap. Dave, yeah, I've got the Flat Cap back. Everyone recently asked me where it was. My missus got pissed off with people asking, so she went and purchased me one. So that was very, very kind of her. Daniel Field with the super sticker. Jacko, what's the super sticker here?
It's a black cat, which I'm not sure. I think there are various meanings of that, right? Some people think of it as good luck. Some people think of it as bad luck. So, Daniel, if you're still with us, please let me know what you think, because it's been a bad hunting ground for us. But maybe a black cat could be that bit of luck that we need tonight.
Coming from Daniel, it definitely means good luck. Big up, Daniel. Good to see you in the house, brother. We also have Trinidad taken as such a positive that we're not happy with the overall performance style, but the Frank engine is adapting with what he has. Time to put the Magpies back in their place tonight. 2-1 win. Well, look, we've suffered some horrible results up there in years gone by. I think we're slapped up there by 4 under Ange. I think we're slapped up there 6-1 under Stellini when Lloris retired at halftime. I mean, we've had some horrible
Everyone's taking a whomping there.
Yeah. Joseph Taylor says, I want to see Spurs go strong tonight and against Chelsea at the weekend, then rotate against Copenhagen, which makes sense. I mean, that's exactly where I am, to be honest with you, Joseph, on this one. If not, if you can't put out 2 strong teams for the next 2 games, what was the point of resting people earlier on in the season then? If you didn't rest people earlier on in the season, then I can understand it. But for me, tonight, I wouldn't understand it personally, Joseph. Big up, Leighton Evelyn. Good to see you. What way are you feeling today? Sometimes we're a bit temperamental. We don't know whether you're happy clapping or, a bit upset with what's going on. So let me know, Leighton, how we're feeling today. We also have Jim in the house. He says we have to rest and rotate. We need people fresh for the Chelsea game. So you can already see the split there in the chat on that one. We'll take a couple more comments, then we'll crack on. Lily White India, should we go for something like a 4-4-2 with Kinsky in goal? Because we've been losing the midfield battle against Newcastle for years now. Well, that's what I think we should go. Exactly what I've done in my predicted lineup. A 5-5-2-2-1, and play Papamat, Sarr, and Bergvall in the 2 number 10 so they can work back. We can swarm that midfield like what Magpies do around breadcrumbs and then, take that ball off them and attack them. That's where I'm at with it, my man. Let's see who else we've got here. We've got Beyond 97 in the house. Good to see you. No Isaac, though. That is true. Mickey Van der Ven has struggled against him in years gone by. Simon says, if we don't go strong in the middle tonight, we will get steamrolled. Absolutely, that's where I'm at with it tonight. That's why I want to see Bentancur and Paulinho roll back out there again tonight. Don't cane me. That's just my opinion. Danny Darko says, oi, guys, Big Vic, can he keep up to my great expectations? Big up all in the chat, Jack and Dave. Do you know what? He had another really good game at the weekend. I felt like I had to mention it in a post-match reaction because I felt like some of the key saves he made at key times in the game sort of went under the radar and got lost between Mickey van der Ven, Papa Sarr maybe proving a point and stuff like that. So I felt like I actually had to highlight some of the key saves he made in that game. Big up Ange Ball as well. Good to see you. And we'll take this from Sonam, and then we're going to kick on. Big up Sonam. Good to see you in the house. How does that look, man, miss? Look like now, if only, come on, you Spurs. I'll take this one because originally, I was sort of the opinion I didn't see the attraction of Ademola Lookman, to be honest with you. I think he's been a bit of a journeyman his whole career. I know he's sort of done well at Atlanta the last couple of seasons and stuff like that. But the reality is, he had a fair shot in English football and he didn't really work out in English football. And also, I think he's playing at AFCON, which means, I think the money that we would have spent on him would have been a waste of money, to be honest with you, because when we would have needed him most over that period, he would have been away on international duty. So I feel like that's why Spurs sort of didn't go after the deal gung-ho, even though it was there to be done on deadline day. But look, no denying it, we've had massive problems at left wing since. But would I change my mind or my opinion? No, because I feel like when we do sign a left winger, it's going to be of a player that I would be very happy with. Jack, anything you want to say to Sonam?
I mean, you're welcome to feel the way you do about Lookman. I really like him. I think he's become an entirely different player since moving to Atalanta. I will admit, though, that's the case where it's a great place to go to sort of develop yourself, maybe sort of turn your career around. We all know Gasperini was amazing at developing players and getting the most out of, you would call misfits or, broken tools or toys type of thing. But I mean, he's arguably been, except for this season, because he pushed for the move and everyone knows he wants to leave. So he's not playing very much because of it. He's pulling a bit of an Alexander Isak situation over at Atalanta. But since he's been there, he's been one of the best players, in my opinion, in the Serie A. And that hat trick that he scored against Leverkusen, the unbeaten team in the Europa League final, was one of the best Europa League finals I've ever watched, really. It was one of the best games I've ever really seen. So from an individual player, really. So I really like Lookman.
Fair. Well, there you are, Sonam. As we can see, very divisive here. Jack loves him. For me, I think there's better answers and solutions out there. But big at Sonam, let me know where you feel. I presume you're sort of on Jack's side of things with that one. But look, let's kick it off. I mean, Spurs arrive at St. James's Park looking to reach the 5th round of the Carabao Cup, but Newcastle are flying right now. 4 wins in their last 5 games. I mean, Jack, how big of a challenge does this represent for Thomas Frank's Tottenham tonight?
I think this is his biggest challenge yet, really. I think no manager before, you said, every manager has taken an absolute whomping from Newcastle, at sometimes home and away, really. And it's maybe Soren said, it's one of the most difficult places to go. I know we have one of the best away records, if not the best away record under Frank so far this season, but this is arguably the biggest of tests in terms of away from home. I think, like you said, the pressure of winning a trophy last season, this is one of our more realistic opportunities to win a trophy in the League Cup, the FA Cup, maybe to a degree as well, but you don't have to play as many games in the League Cup. And if you take out a scalp like Newcastle, there are only so many good teams left in the competition after that. We might get lucky and play, I don't know, a Brentford or someone else who could maybe advance into the next rounds. I just think this is arguably Thomas Frank's biggest game yet. He's answered the call a few times now. I'd say West Ham. I know we forget that result a lot, but I do think that was a big test. I think Man City's, of course, as well. You've seen him come up against other teams away from home with Everton and whatnot, and he's answered the call. Other times he was not. Bodo Glimt was probably one of the worst performances I've seen. Same with Monaco. So it's been an interesting mixed bag with Frank, but if he pulls off a result tonight, I think he will have a lot of fans behind him, and I think he'll be answering a lot of question marks about him. So, the biggest test for this team, the biggest test for Thomas Frank, and also as well, I think it's not even 14 players out; it's 15 players out. It's crazy. Yeah. I mean, I know you're saying what players can he rest? What players can he rest? There's only so many players available, really. So, best of luck to you, Thomas. We'll see how you do.
No, look, and I think, to your point, I think if he pulls a result out of the bag here tonight, considering some of the hidings that we took up there in years gone by and its progression in the cup competition, I think you see a lot of questions around Frank sort of shutting up for a little while, to be honest with you. equally, I think if we go out tonight, I think the question sort of mount a little bit despite how we're doing the league, because you're always going to have a discerning voice or two out there. You see that across social right now anyway. But look, for me, I just think it's a massive opportunity for Tottenham and Frank to sort of show that we are steering in the right direction, that we can survive this period that's coming up, because this is traditionally a period where a lot of our season goes tits up. But when you look at that win against Everton, something we haven't done in 4 years, maybe it was a sign of what's to come, that maybe this period isn't going to be as tricky as it has been in years gone by. But also, there's been a lot of questions. Look, there's been no doubt about it with Thomas Frank that he's been a superb domestic campaign manager in terms of the league. He's never really shown it in the cup competitions at Brentford. He's gone out the first time of asking. So that has been one question mark that has hung over him. But that's also going to be one question mark that any other Big Six club or any other big club across Europe that might be looking at Frank next once he's done with Tottenham Hotspur. If he doesn't answer that question here, he may never get a job of this magnitude again off the back of it. So I think it's also huge for him to show that he can run a cup campaign alongside the league campaign, because look, to be fair, Ange Postecoglou proved he couldn't do it last year. The domestic campaign gave up for the cup campaigns. You know what? And look, other managers sort of prioritize league over cup. What we want to see is, can a manager do both? And I think if Thomas Frank can get over the line tonight, and because it's such a big game away from home against Newcastle, traditionally these are sort of games, as soon as you come up against a big team in the cups, we traditionally just sort of bow out. If he can get us over the line tonight, I think he gets many people's attention and going, hang on, what's going on over there at Tottenham? Maybe things are starting to change a little. And at the end of the day, Frank has also put this pressure on himself. He keeps mentioning, you know, when he's asked about pre-cup games, of course, I want to win silverware. I want to bring silverware to Tottenham Hotspur, which I absolutely like, by the way. He's not shirking the responsibility. He's not sitting there going, look, it's a bit of progress, this, that, and the other. Because I think the way, if he was to answer it that way, he would piss off many fans. I love the way he's absolutely answering it. But look, I suppose you got to back it up. Big game for him tonight, though. Absolute big game, because it's not going to be easy. Newcastle away from home midweek. It's going to be raucous. Their crowd are going to be up for it. It doesn't matter how cold it is out there tonight. You will see nipples on your TV screen. They'll be bouncing around with the shirts over the head. It is going to be boisterous. And that Newcastle crowd feed off it. Even the biggest teams have gone there across Europe, and I've struggled with Newcastle at St. James's Park. Yeah. They start traditionally well. They try to start aggressive and use that and make it very, very intimidating. It's important we survive the first 30 minutes, and Thomas Frank picks the right lineup to survive that, because if we do, like I keep saying, we can win this game. Also, it's important that he picks the right midfield. This whole Newcastle team is built around their midfield. Tonali, exceptional. Gamer is exceptional both sides of the game. Joelinton causes absolute chaos in and around that midfield. You know, so this is going to be a game where we're going to have to be combative in the midfield. So that midfield selection is going to have to be spot on. We can't have any weak links in there, or else their midfield will seize upon that and take advantage of it. So it's very, very important here, the lineup that Thomas Frank picks tonight, and signals with the lineup that he's picking that there is intent to go and win this game. But I mean, Dermot, down to you. I mean, how much does the Carabao Cup matter to Spurs fans right now? Is this realistically our best shot of silverware this season? Because you hear fans going, look, we're not going to win a Premier League, we're not going to win a Champions League, but the two domestic cups are achievable, right?
Yeah, they are. I mean, you set out every season, you set up to win one of the domestic cups. It's, you know, Tottenham have a tradition of being really good winners. We always win an FA Cup or a League Cup. Tottenham are known to be in the cup side. We've lost the way a little bit under previous managers where they have prioritised the leagues over the cups, which really pisses me off, because I love the cup runs. I love getting to Wembley. I love the feeling you get when you know you're going to Wembley and you get a buzz about it, like we did going to Bilbao last season. You want that feeling again. So tonight is important. Look, Newcastle is tough. I go back to when Newcastle played Liverpool up there. And, you know, Newcastle were on Liverpool for about half an hour and really put them to the sword. But I think this Spurs side can do it. I think we've got the grit. I think we've got this sort of determination now away from home that we're not pushovers anymore. We're not going to be weak when they come up against these teams. We've won away at Everton, not an easy place to win at. We've won away at Leeds, not an easy place to win at. Yes, it hasn't been pretty, but we've got 3 points. So, yes, tonight's going to be tough, but I'm more expecting a Tottenham win tonight. Like, if it would have been last season, I would have expected us to get hammered tonight. But I don't have that feeling this year because of the way we've been playing away at home, the way Thomas Frank has us playing. And, yes, it will answer a load of questions tonight, but we've got to prioritise as well the cup competitions as well. Don't take your eye off the league, but don't take your eye off the cup competitions as well, because we're overdue a cup win. And by Christ, 1991 was the last time we won an FA Cup. I was a teenager. We haven't won one for over 30 years. I won another FA Cup before I meet him upstairs. So come on, Tottenham. Let's get the Wembley. Let's get this momentum going. You know, we can do it. We're the mighty Spurs. And why can't we believe we can win this cup? Of course we can.
On something you were saying there, I think it's important that Thomas Frank picks a team that looks like he can go and win this game. I think that's where other managers have sort of let themselves down in years gone by. Postecoglou, Conte, Jose. They sort of have thrown a lot of players out there that they clearly haven't had faith in. And it's sort of given off the perception once we've been dumped out that they've just binned off the cup. Even if we go out tonight and Thomas Frank picks a sort of good lineup that many Spurs fans believe can go and win it, the criticism won't fall at his door. The criticism will more fall on the individual player's door. And I think it's big tonight that he picks a team that many Spurs fans believe can go and win this game. Because I think then calm heads will prevail if the worst does happen tonight. However, if we win tonight, I think it gets many fans talking, like, what's the possibilities? Can we actually go and win this Carabao Cup? Newcastle away is a huge gap. We've had so much trouble there in years gone by. I think then it sort of signifies that maybe the mentality is starting to change at Tottenham Hotspur a little, that when these big games do come around, there's every chance we can go and win them rather than choking like we've done in years gone by. So I think, you know, it can really work out in Thomas Frank's favour tonight, you know, if he does both of them things. But Soren, I mean, down to you, my man. I mean, Thomas Frank has made no secret of wanting silverware at Tottenham. Do you believe, given the time and the right resources, he can be the guy to deliver the silverware to the Tottenham fans, even if it's not this season?
Yeah, I mean, first things first, Dermo telling us he was a teenager in 1990. I've got a picture from 1825 and he was 21 then. So,
I aged very slowly, Soren.
I thought Dermot was around when World War I was kicking off, to be honest.
That's what I thought too.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was.
No, look. The thing is with Frank, as much as we say tonight's really important, which obviously it is, it means nothing if then we go at the weekend and get thrashed again. You know, we've got to start looking at playing teams like Newcastle, Chelsea, and thinking, yeah, we can win it, but then we're not afraid to go into the next match as well. And look, we had this 2 years ago. We had it last year, not as much, obviously, with the team, but where first round, second round, we start playing weakened teams and we go out with a whimper. And tonight, it's going to be a tough game. And we know there's going to be rotations. There's got to be. But I think the most important thing is we don't just roll over. That's the problem that I always have with these cup games, that we go into them and we roll over. And
far too easy.
Yeah, and look, the fallout so far this season, you know, fans calling for Frank's head already and he's out of his depth and blah, blah, blah. We've just got to get behind this manager. And look, I'll be one of the first tonight that if it's a massive rotation and we go out with a whimper, I'll be complaining. Don't get me wrong, but we've got to understand that as a football club, Tottenham Hotspur, our eggs are firmly finishing high in the Premiership. I don't care what anybody says. And yes, as much as Frank will want silverware and us fans want silverware, we're all desperate for some more after last year. You know, I mean, it was such a high, and we can all remember the goosebumps from the from the bus tour and things like that. But it's not the end of the world if we do go out tonight. What is the end of the world is if we go out and we're absolutely shit. That's where I'm standing. But I do think we'll go through tonight, and I do think we'll come out of it 1-0, maybe 2-1, something like that. It's going to be a hell of a tough match, but I'd be more worried if it was at home, because even though going to Newcastle is one of the worst places in the Premiership for us to go to, you know, and I'm not talking about history or things like that, you know, atmosphere and things like that. I do think our away form shows we can go to other clubs' places, hold on and nick a win. And that to me is probably, at this time and stage in Frank's tenure, it's probably the best thing to be that we're not at home against Newcastle, because I could just imagine being at home. We're all, expecting a good win because we are at home, and then we get thrashed. Whereas we go away, we've kind of on a hide into nothing, because a lot of people will expect us to go there and struggle. Well, maybe we'll go there and actually do something. But I do think we'll know soon enough, because as soon as that team sheet comes out, we'll know whether he's taking it really, really seriously, or whether it's a fingers crossed, let's try and get through this.
Well, if he does take it seriously tonight, though, I think, if we do go and beat them, I'm almost like with you. I'm glad it's away from home. Look, first of all, our home form is absolutely shocking. We sort of failed to play at home. We're frightened for one reason or the other. But I think it's one of them games tonight that, if you go out early in the cup competition, you can't beat a team like Newcastle away from home, then you're never going to win it in the first place. Whereas I think if you end up winning it tonight, I think it's one of them where you look at a lot of them players around the dressing room. Some of them were there for that Newcastle hiding. Some of them were there for the 4-0 under Ange Postecoglou, a lot of them. So if they can win that, that's a massive psychological barrier broken for them, and massive relief moving forward, where you almost feel like, well, hang on, if we can go up there and win, we can win anywhere. And I feel like tonight is one of them games.
The thing is, as well, I mean, let's just turn the tide a little bit. If you look at Newcastle wouldn't want to play us at the moment, because they'll look at it and think they can go away from home and win. We're not getting thrashed away from home. We're one of the strongest teams playing away from home at the moment. So as much as Newcastle will be very confident at home, they'll also be sat there thinking, yeah, this team's better away than they are at home. So, we've got a tough match tonight. And if they don't score early, then you kind of look at it and think it could get to be quite a nervy game. I just hope, because it goes to penalties tonight, doesn't it? So I just hope it don't go to penalties. I hate penalties. As much as I love penalties, I hate it, because you just think, shit, it's another one anybody can win. And look, going back to when we lost against, was it Fulham under Ange in his first season? I mean, everybody says, well, we got to penalties and things like that. Yeah, but we still lost on the night. So it doesn't matter how you've got to penalties, we've got to win it in 90 minutes. That's my argument. And look, I'm more confident now of scoring a goal and this team hanging on. And I think we can. And I mean, the good news is obviously they've lost their best striker, haven't they? So, as much as they are still a damn good team, they have lost Isaac. So he was always one that played well against us. So we'll see.
Well, they've got a new guy up front, Valtamado. I'm very scared of, actually. He's big, he's tall, but he's also very, very good with his feet. The guy can also pass a ball as well, So they may have got rid of one, but they replaced him a lot better than what we did Harry Kane anyway, that's for sure. Or what it looks like anyway so far earlier on. But look, Jack, Tottenham did bounce back brilliantly with that 3-0 win at Everton. But cup ties, they sort of bring that different kind of pressure. How important was that performance against Everton in restoring belief? And do you sort of sense that result can be a real turning point? Because there was a lot of noise ahead of that Everton game, from disgruntled Spurs fans off the back of the international break. The two performances, the one against Monaco and Aston Villa, maybe questioning where Tottenham were heading, what it was actually looking like on the pitch, the home form, stuff like that. Do you think that sort of performance was badly needed? And do you think it's maybe restored a little bit more belief behind the team in Thomas Frank again?
I think so. There was even like a short clip that Tottenham Hotspur put with João Palhinha after the game. And he more or less said what you just said there, where he was kind of saying, like, the last two results, like, haven't gone our way. He said we felt like we were the better team against Aston Villa, but then he brought up we need to find a way to win at home. For some reason, we can't do that yet. And then he said the performance against Monaco just wasn't acceptable despite getting a point. So then to answer those questions with a convincing win, in my opinion, away from home at Everton, especially a tough place to go, I think has restored probably faith from the fans, but I'd also imagine, the players once again, because the way we play, it's not all the time liquid, beautiful football that kind of gets you sort of confident. It's like, it's kind of a team sort of dogged like sort of style that we're playing right now, where we defend deep. We also do look to press at times. There's a lot of organization about us, but it seems like it's more cohesive team effort that gets us over the line under Thomas Frank. And when that's missing, we do tend to not look very good on paper. But when it is there, when you are seeing players work hard for each other, when you are seeing them drill down the set pieces and get them correct, we are a formidable team. We are a difficult team to beat, really. And we can take that sort of play style to anybody, really. And I think that's what was nice to hear from Paulinho, was more or less confirming what you just said there. And that's just coming from the player's mouth, really, that they did feel like the last two results were not acceptable, even though one of the games they felt like they played well enough to get the result. Just getting that whatever pressure off your back by winning 3-0 away from home at Everton, I think did get a lot of buyback probably from the players. And I will say, though, so far in the Cups, like, we haven't been, we've only had the Champions League really to look at, and then the one game, versus Doncaster Rovers. But yeah, you would say in the Cups, we've been a little bit of a different team. So an opportunity here to change that.
100%. Absolutely 100%. By the way, a big up the Two Marks show. The Two Marks, I think this is Cookies, member for 22 months. Afternoon, chaps.
Thank you, man.
Hope you're all well. Look, winners are grinners. As long as we keep winning, I'm good, my man, Mark. It's when we don't win is when I have a problem. But hopefully you're keeping well, sir. Good to see you in the building. And then also, I think I want to say a big good evening to DB as well, along with Ribeye as well. Good to see you, Ribsy. Hopefully you're keeping well. But Dermot, I mean, look, like I said, I think the team and Thomas Frank, because it wasn't just Thomas Frank, I think people were starting to have questions about how good are we really, considering a lot of the areas that maybe Spurs fans still want to sign in and all. And it does feel like, after that Everton result, it's sort of, they managed to put out a lot of the fires that maybe were starting to fan around them. I mean, how important is it for Tottenham to back that up again tonight with another strong display? Because, it's one thing beating teams like Everton and all. No disrespect to Everton, but they're teams we should be beating if we have aspirations of qualifying again in Europe. But it's another team trying to do it, against, like, say, Newcastle away. And if we can do it tonight, then you all of a sudden you go, that's Man City away and Newcastle away this season. Then all of a sudden you start garnering respect to the bigger teams then as well.
I said it after Sunday's watch along that we have to back it up tonight. We have to back it up with a win against Newcastle. And then we have to back it up again with a win at home to Chelsea on Saturday. And tonight's such an important for so many ways for Thomas Frank. He gets some of the fans off his back, which I think is ridiculous anyway. But we live in a society where fans will moan about anything. They want success now. So that's the way we live in. So be it. But he'll get a lot of them fans off his back. I think it sends out a marker to the rest of the league that Tottenham mean business this year. We're in it to win it. We're not going to be easy pickings. And if you look back, Dave, right, Thomas Frank has a really good chance. Only 2 years, only 2022 against Nottingham Forest and Fulham, we went out the third and the second round. Apart from that, from 2018-19, we've reached the semi-finals or finals out of every competitions at the League Cup, bar the Nottingham Forest and the Fulham defeats. So we have gone all the way, or nearly gone all the way in this competition. So Thomas Frank tonight will look at it, think, right, we've got history on our side. We're really good at this competition. Let's go for it. And I think he has marked this at the start of the season. This is a trophy for us to win. And I think he early on he's marked it. That's a change from Ange Postecoglou, where he hasn't marked it and he has taken priorities. Thomas Frank is a manager that will get us there. Let's get off his back. But a win tonight is vital. We've got to win tonight for morale, to get fans off Thomas Frank's back, and also back it up again on Saturday at home to Chelsea. Because if we win tonight and lose Saturday, as Soren says, you're not backing it up, are you? You're just sort of halfway there and then not performing at home. We've got to back it up, and back it up. That will keep the fans off his back. And if we can see that, that gives him time. And that gives him graces in the fans' book. And it gives him times, I think, in the bad times that we can get. He's got credit in the bank then to rely on. Look, I have proven it to you. We've got loads of injuries, but he's not using it as an excuse either, Dave.
No. Fair play.
Where Ange would have done last season, he hasn't used it as an excuse. And why we're getting all these injuries? It's football. It wasn't Ange's fault last year. I was blaming Daniel Levy to Soren's point, but it wasn't Ange's fault. It's football. Players get injuries. How other clubs are in the same situation? So it's how you deal with it. And I think Thomas Frank deals with it better than I say, Ange or another manager would have done.
I think it's a bit off to be saying Ange didn't sort of, won the Cups last year. Don't forget we got to the semi-final, second leg, still in the chance of getting to the final last year, so under Ange. So as much as the year before, I would totally agree with you, but I think last year he definitely prioritised the Cups to try and get somewhere, because you could see that the teams in the Carabao Cup last season under Ange, he definitely played a slightly stronger team than he needed to sometimes. So I think, saying he had no interest in them or whatever last season, I think that's a bit disingenuous to him.
I think, well, look, I say that because if you look at the second leg against Liverpool, we didn't perform. And if you look at the way we were in the league, and I looked at it from a whole, I looked from last season under Ange with the injuries. Thomas Frank has not used it as an excuse today. He's not said it once about his injuries. He's got on with it. Yeah, we reached the semi-final of the League Cup. We won the Europa League, which I'm over the moon with. I'm still buzzing after that. I watched it again today, this afternoon, just to remind us we can win stuff. And so, look, maybe, yeah, I'm probably being a little bit what you said, Sarr, and I will accept that. But it's how I saw it. He really never took the Cup seriously unless he had to. And he had to last year because of the way we were in the league.
Anyway, look,
just a real quick one to Noel. If the players went for that trophy and it was down to them, then it's down to them that they finished 17th in the league and not Ange. So you can't have it both ways, mate.
Anyway, look, that's old news. We're under the Thomas Frank train now. I thought, look, what happened before? We spent so much time sort of debating it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But look, I mean, on what Dermot was saying about the pressure, on Thomas Frank to deliver over these next couple of games. Look, I fully understand, maybe where Dermot's coming from or the angle he's coming at. Like, at the end of the day, this is the nature of the job when you're at Tottenham Hotspur. These are the games that sort of matter to us, is these sort of big games. We expect to beat the little teams, but it's the big games that really matter to us. And at the end of the day, it's not Brentford. There is going to be that pressure on them. But I think, even if we don't win all these games, for me, it's just about, can we be a lot more competitive and at least be in these games compared to years gone by where we've gone into these games and the quality has really shown between the two teams and we've been pumped off the park. And look, I know it's a bit hypocritical for me saying not to go back to Ange, but you go back to his first season, near the end of the season, we had North London Derby, Newcastle away, Liverpool, Chelsea, Man United, etc. We got slapped up. We weren't competitive. We were in disarray, absolutely all over the shop. For me, it's just about going into these games and can we compete? If we can compete, then I come out of it and go, do you know what? There's a foundation here moving forward. A couple more signings, a couple more tweaks here and there. We can really go and challenge. It's just about being competitive. What I don't want is just being sitting back, outplayed, chasing shadows for 90 minutes like I've had to watch in years gone by. It's about being competitive for me, but also picking teams that are competitive to be able to go and try and win the games. If Thomas Frank can do that, then for me, I don't suppose I can really have any sort of complaints in that regard.
100%. I agree with that. I think it's not even a previous manager thing. I think it's just been the case under a lot of managers at Spurs that we've had tough run of fixtures like this, and we just tend to unravel for whatever reason. We just don't seem to be able to hold our nerve. And like you say there, even if we did have a loss, we kind of let it get to us. It felt like, as a team and as a club, and then it just sort of then led to loss after loss after loss, and there was just no real hope about it. So I agree with you, Dave. I think the way to look at it is, it's a tough run of fixtures. I think Iceman, brought it up here where it's, I think it was in there, but, we know it's Chelsea next, then it's Copenhagen, which we have to win, to keep our Champions League hopes, I think, alive. Then you go to Arsenal after international break, PSG, Man United. Like, it's just where a real team can be made, and we can actually develop that real thick skin about us in these next few games. And like you say, we're not expecting to win all of them, but if we can stay competitive in all of them while still picking up some wins here and there, I think that's where a team really comes together. Where in the past, it's almost like the team is unraveled from runs of fixtures like this. Completely agree with you.
Everything's unraveled. You're absolutely spot on there. But look, I think tonight's a massive chance to sort of, because right now as well, I think many Spurs fans are sitting there waiting to see how competitive we're going to be sort of this year. Right now you've got fans that are saying, look, we should be challenging. Other fans going, well, look, it's first season, give it time, this, that, and the other. There's going to be sort of cracks and stuff. We're going to be mid-table at best. And I think, we've sort of at times, against Man City, we look like a team that could really go and be competitive and surprise many people. But then against likes of Wolves and that, we've sort of looked like a team where, have we really moved on from what we've been in the past? But I think this next fixture list will sort of really show us what we are as a team this year and where we should really expect to finish in around the league and stuff, and what is realistic this season. And that's what I'm looking forward most out of this next period on that regard. And look, at the end of the day, you know, you are going to have a few that are going to like still unhappy with the style of playing, calling for Frank's head and stuff like that. But I say to them, people, who are you going to bring in? You know, who's going to come in and it's going to look different? The problem is we lack in certain areas, and it's just going to look like that regardless of who's in charge and what style and philosophy they have. But, you know, look, this next fixture list is just all about being competitive for me. I just don't want to be outplayed like we have done in years gone by, like I said. But, I mean, sorry, was that Everton displayed or sign that Thomas Frank is finally starting to get his ideas across? And do you think it was more about individual players stepping up? Because look, the defensive solidity, you know, that is something that Thomas Frank has brought to the club. You know, you look at the set pieces again, you know, how prolific we are from them. That is something that Thomas Frank has brought to the club. And we scored a goal from open play, I suppose, near the end, which was a nice surprise, and hopefully give some of them players a bit of belief in possession now. I mean, but do you think that Everton game was all the hallmark of, like, you know, Thomas Frank stamping his imprint on this team? I guess is what I'm asking.
I think it's a little bit of both, personally. I mean, I'm not a big believer in this way. You know, you say it's all down to the manager or it's all down to the players. It's a bit of both. You know, I mean, you can't come out and say, "Oh, players have won us that match, but they lose." You know, but it's the manager who's lost us the other match. It's ridiculous sort of statements. But that Everton game, look, I think the problem is we've watched games under Frank this season, and they've not been pretty. You know, we're not going to sit here and say it's been fantastic to watch football. We've scraped through. We've won 1-0, 2-1, whatever. It's been tight games. We saw the exact same kind of strategy under Conte when he first came. It was not pretty. It was football that won matches, and that's what Frank's doing. And I still think it's going to be probably another 6 months before we see anything of what we can expect as a normal type style of football under Frank. I think he's going to make sure we are hard to beat. He's going to make sure that if we win, it's probably a tight win. And look, 3-0, you know, as much as it was a good scoreline, it could have been very different. And I think with Frank, his main focus is making sure we're not getting thrashed. And you can see that the fact, is it 6 clean sheets so far this season? Big difference. I mean, I don't think we had 6 clean sheets under Angel, you know, in 2 years probably. But and you kind of sit there, and this argument has been around for so many times that it doesn't matter how you win if you get 3 points, but then you look back and you think, well, we played shit, or we scraped through. So it does matter. And as much as at the moment 3 points is, or next round as tonight goes, is the most important, then the actual style of football is less important. But we still want to see some decent football, but I don't think we're going to see a Frank system for quite some time.
Yeah, but look, I mean, it's going to be difficult when you're sort of still trying to find who is the best solution off the left. I think, you know, but and sort of as that calm sort of position. But what I will say, Moani coming in will certainly help things. I think we did look a little bit better on the eye in possession, you know, against Everton. There were some lovely moves there that maybe if we finished off, you know, all of a sudden you'd be looking back and going, do you know what? But I think the one big thing that many people sort of don't understand is that across the season, you don't just win games by one style of play. There's many facets that you have to show as a team. And I think one thing that I'm really enjoying looking at this team is how competitive we are, how much we get stuck in. In years gone by, I've seen us sort of back off players, you know, and stuff like that, not really get aggressive with them. I'm loving how aggressive this team is, how combative it is. I love seeing Paulinho smash people, Romero sliding into challenges and stuff. I love seeing us being direct from set pieces in terms of throw-ins. No mucking about, put it in the box. I love seeing how I feel like every time we get a corner, we're almost going to score off the back of it. I got so excited. I think the only component defensively was solid. You know, he sort of tightened up that midfield as well. I think the only thing we are missing is at times could we be a little bit better on the eye in possession. But I think the more level-headed people sort of understand that. Well, certainly people like me who didn't, you know, try and pretend how good Johnson was or Tell was and players like that, you know, I sort of call a spade as soon as I see them. I understand the problem, that they're the issue. It's not a Frank issue. It's not something that is going to be sorted out tactically or, you know, by, working with them on the training pitch and stuff. They're just not of the desired quality that we need. And I think I've really noticed that with Mwani coming in here, with the likes of Paulinia coming in, with the likes of Kudus coming in here, you know, how much they really add to the lineup, how better we look in terms of possession when these guys are on the ball. It is a quality issue. And until that's solved, there is going to be times where we might have to win a game by set pieces and stuff. But what I will say in Frank's favor, at least he has circumvented a way around it, realized that it is an issue. He's not moaning about it. He's not sitting there going, my hands are tied, the transfer window's closed. He's found another way to try and help us go and win games. And I think that only does deserve plaudits, to be fair. And this is coming from a guy that had a lot of questions around Thomas Frank. And I think very fair questions as well. How would he handle Europe? How would he handle, you know, cup campaign? And, you know, how will he handle not having all the time he did on the training pitch at Brentford? I had fair questions around, you know, Thomas Frank. And this is coming from a guy, you know, that like I said, out questions. And I think it's only fair that he deserves a lot of praise, because the reality is, if he didn't have set pieces and introduce directness from throw-ins and stuff, we'd just be back exactly how we looked in seasons gone by.
The thing is, Dave, with that, you know, we talk about Frank, whether he's been flexible or whether he's doing things, but, and I know people don't like to use it as an excuse, but, you know, he has got some big names out injured at the moment. And,
of course,
you know,
names that will make a difference.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not a case of necessarily being flexible at the moment. It's a case of, while we do have big names out injured and we haven't got probably our first team out there, we don't lose. And that's the thing that I like under Frank, that it's a dogged mentality now. It's a, you know, let's go out there. The football might be crap. It might not be entertaining. It might not be fun to watch. But when 90 minutes is up and you've won the game, it doesn't matter whether it's in minute 1 or minute 90. The jubilation's there because it's another 3 points on the thing. And like you said, the first 6 months of a new manager, then to me, it's never really going to be that exciting. I mean, it can be. I'm not saying it won't be, but to me, it's about making sure that you change the, you know, if he's coming to a team that's losing a lot, it's you make sure you change that team to not lose, and then the pretty football might come afterwards. And look, I'm happy to sit here and watch football that I don't find entertaining, knowing the fact that it could lead to something special. And that, you know, that's fine by me. And I think Frank is probably the manager that will bring that.
And the thing is as well, you know, I know a lot of people say, oh, you can't judge them after, you know, a couple of months. But realistically, that's where you really notice whether, you know, it's just being a new manager bounce, whether they're playing for the manager, whether he's getting his ideas across and it's working and stuff like that. And my big thing was coming into this October period, you know, going into the November period, it's usually where everything's derailed for Tottenham Hotspur, that, you know, the initial signs were never lasting, you know. And I think that's one thing I've took from managers and stuff gone by, whereas I think when I look at this, it does seem like the players are taking on board what he's saying. They want to go out there and execute. I think you look at some of the players, they're enjoying this battle. You know, I think you also look at some of the sound bites coming out from Mickey Van de Ven and thing. They're also frustrated with some of the players in the forward line and stuff like that. And I just think, but the big thing for me is it does look like that the manager and the players are certainly getting on, and that this looks like it could last, that we will be competitive in most games this season, even if we don't come out the right side of the scoreline, that we are going to fight for every fucking point this year. And I think for me, that's the thing you can judge very early on in a tenure.
I just want to add that. Sorry,
I was just going to say really quickly. It's interesting this season how it's the defenders that are loving the way we're playing and the attackers that aren't saying as much, whereas at the beginning of Angie's tenure, it was the attackers that was loving it and the defenders not saying anything. So you can see the difference. Sorry, Jack, go on.
No, I was just going to add, like, I know you were asking what have we seen under Thomas Frank, you know, system-wise and whatever. I think just in general, the big change that he's made that might have actually been necessary, to be honest, which makes the hiring of him in a way a bit clever, is that if you're in the same boat as me and Dave, where you really don't rate the forward line, you don't rate the options that we have to choose from, like it just really isn't that great on an individual basis, and there's not a lot of quality there. It is then probably about just being a hard team to beat. You don't like it because before we had a manager that was brilliant in terms of attacking football, but he couldn't really get the wins because, in my opinion, the forward line just wasn't good enough really to get those wins. Where then you hire a manager that you know is going to make your team very hard to beat, where you're going to be defensively sound, combative in midfield, good from set pieces, and then you're just going to sort of eventually improve, the forward aspect. But he's gone about it, I think, the right way, Thomas Frank, where he's made the other sides of our game very strong, and then we'll eventually, hopefully, figure out some areas in the forward line. Whether it's just, I think it's more down to individual quality, but that's what I do rate about him, is that if you don't think the forward line is very good, you have to be defensively sound, you have to be good in midfield, and you have to be good from set pieces. And he's been doing that, so fair play to him.
I think there's just an honesty with him about what we are. I think with Jose, Conte, Postecoglou, to a degree, it's like, even if I don't have the players to play in my way, this is the way we're playing. I'm not changing. It's up to you to get up to scratch, this, that, and the other. Whereas I think with Thomas Frank, he goes, right, well, this is what we are. I can sit here and just come in and do one style, one way, etc., or I can try and find other ways around it. And, there are questions that have been asked of a Jose, of a Conte, of a Postecoglou in years gone by. Okay, we get what you're trying to do. We get what you're all about. We don't have the players to play that way. Are you going to do something different to try and get points? And they haven't really. They've just sort of stuck by their way. Whereas Thomas Frank has come in and gone, this is what we are. I don't have this massive ego. I'll work with it. And I think that's the big thing on sort of what we're seeing. I think the good thing for me is, like, the transfer window's closed. There's nothing we can do about it, but we're still being competitive. We're not just playing a certain style and hemorrhaging points and going, well, transfer window's closed. What can I do? He's really earning his money, I suppose, is the right phrase there. Big up Moondog member.
Basics.
Go on,
Sorry, Dave, I was on mute and I was trying to get in. I didn't realize I was on mute for about 5 minutes. I do apologize. He's going back to basics very quickly. He's going back to basics, which we needed to do. And any great team starts with a solid back line and a solid midfield, which we are getting there. The front, I'm not impressed with our front line either. It's wank. It's crap front line. We do need to improve that. Of course we do. But we're becoming difficult to beat, which is the start line of any successful side. You do that and you get your front line working, we're going to be a team to watch. And that was like that under Poch in the early years. The first season Poch had, wasn't great. After that, when he got the players in he needed, he sort of went on a good run. So, Thomas Frank will get it right. He will get it right eventually. And, I think he's doing a great job so far.
Well, I think what it is, I think he's given them the best opportunity to make it work at Tottenham as well. By the way, he's sort of gone about it. Big up Moondog member for 47 months. Big up Dave and Jack and the panel. Come on, you Spurs. Moondog, good to see you. How are you and Charlie keeping, my man? Any bets on tonight's game as well? I know you're a betting man. Any first goal scorer? I don't think you can rely on Johnson this year, so you might have to change up that one a little bit this year. So let me know who you're going for. But big up Moondog. Good to see you in the building. And then King Hoddle also put this comment in earlier. I'll just take this quickly. Evening all, Dave. That was the weirdest predicted lineup I have ever seen from you, mate. You had Porro as the third centre-back, Kudus as a wing-back, and Sarr and Bergvall playing behind the striker. Well, look, what I actually done is set up the formation in possession the way he had it set up against Everton. That's sort of what he had in possession. He had Johnson nice high and wide on one side, Spence the other side, Xavi, Simmons and Kudus playing as your two number 10s with Mwani, Bentancur and Bergvall, and Porro sort of tucked in as your third centre-back in possession. And that's the way I put it out. And to me, I think that's our best chance of going and winning tonight's game, to be honest with you, King Hoddle. But hopefully it made sense to a lot of people. I know there's one guy out there, Snow Cyber Gaming, who loves to troll me every video we do. He claims to hate me, but yet he's here every single video we do saying it was absolutely nonsense and all. But hopefully the majority of people who are actually open and receptive to what I have to say, rather than already coming in with a biased opinion, understood what I had to say on that one. Big up King Hoddle, good to see you in the building. And also Vince Vega, good to see you. This guy's an absolute legend, by the way, an absolute character. Yeah. If you ever see him around Tottenham, make sure you go and say hi and have a good drink with this guy. He's an absolute legend.
Just quickly as well, please everybody smash the like button, because I think we've had well over 300 in the house for a while now, but not even 100 likes. So please everybody get it to at least 100 likes. We would appreciate it. But yeah, big up fans.
That's something we don't do enough, actually, is sit there and ask for likes, guys. Likes is absolutely crucial to us. So if you could do that, that'd be absolutely unreal. Peter, good to see you back around these parts. I thought you weren't listening to me anymore, but it's good to see that you're back around. Hopefully you're keeping well, my man. Danny Kiriakou, good to see you in the building as well. Hopefully you're keeping well, sir. But look, let's keep it moving on. I mean, Jack Frank did change the formation. He moved away from the usual 4-2-3-1 in possession and set up Spurs in a 5-2-2-1 shape in possession. And Spurs did look far more fluid in possession at Everton. Should Frank stick with that same setup tonight at St. James's Park?
I think he should, because the big success about it was freeing up Kudus and giving him the free role to just sort of get on the ball wherever need be. I think in previous games, rightfully so, you wanted him far out wide, taking on fullbacks, creating chances in those areas, but teams eventually copped onto it and figured it out that he is the real threat in terms of the creativity of this team. So I think you have to do either it's the same exact shape like you brought up in your predicted lineup, or at least the same principle or the same foundation of having Kudus in some sort of type of free role where he's not being asked to just sit on one side of the pitch or the other. If you give Kudus that freedom to move around, be able to create for others, I think that's the way that this team can look a lot better, because he is, in my opinion, really the only player that is consistently competent at actually being able to make things happen on his own, whether it's playing a nice 1-2, dragging us up the pitch to get a free kick in a good area, taking on players, which then opens up the space even more. He is the guy that you have to focus, I think, your attack around until others step up, whether it's a Colomboani, an Odebear, who else? I mean, anybody really. Xavi Simmons, if he started playing a lot better, that would make life a lot easier for us. But I think you have to try to find a way to give Kudus the freedom to express himself, a bit of a maverick-like role, if you will, Dave. And I think that's the real key to opening up this team creatively and giving us more opportunities going forward, really. And he did that against Everton. I think he has to do the same thing.
Caveat, I mean, this question isn't in my script. But, you know, do you think Kudus could play pushed out to the very right where Johnson played against Everton in this sort of system? Because for me, I think he could, because you've got more bodies around him that he can sort of play 1-2s with, rather so than sort of being so isolated the way he is sort of in that 4-2-3-1 setup. By the way, big up Futures, bright Futures, really white. Big game for you tonight, by the way. I know he's a Geordie himself, Geordie Spurs fan, which is rare. I don't know what went wrong with you, Geordie, but let me know, my man. Jacko, do you think Kudus could play as wide as Johnson did in that setup? I know it was designed to free up Mohamed Kudus, but do you think he could, like, you know, play that role that Johnson played?
Hard to say. Maybe I'm not. Maybe you might need to answer your own question, because I might not be understanding the tactical point as much as you. I just think teams have copped onto it, where if Kudus is all the way tucked out there and he's not getting a lot of support from Pedro Porro or others, you know, around him, he's just almost left on his own to be, like we've said, messy, where he has to take on 4 or 5 players and then, you know, it sort of creates something out of that. And I just think even the best of players in the world will struggle if you have 2-3 guys around you at all times. Like the Monaco game was the best example. That the manager, like, had only been in charge for like 2 or 3 days, the Monaco manager, and he figured out quite quickly, like, if you take Kudus out of the game and you give him a lot of players to have to take it past, then you sort of stop Spurs and you make it very difficult on them to sort of create regularly. And that's what I would say. My fear is that if you put Kudus way out there, Eddie Howe, being the smart manager that he is, and Jason Tyndall, his little cheerleader to the left of him, will immediately start, you know, telling players, all right, you know, double up, triple mark him, and then you take the team out. So maybe it could work, but I just maybe answer your own question, because
no, I understand. No, I understand what you're saying. I'm guessing. I'm just asking, could Kudus be more effective, you know, out on the right where Johnson was, or, you know, maybe say if you wanted to fit Papamat Sarr or Lucas Bergvall in that number role, you know, could Kudus still be as effective out on that right hand side in that role? But I do get what you're saying. I think you're sort of isolating him to a degree. Ideally, what I would prefer to see is Porro come in as the third centre back, with Porro pushing high and wide on the right hand side in terms of his delivery and all, and sort of keep Kudus in that sort of central role. I fully agree with you on that. I mean, Soren and Dermo, we'll also get your thoughts on sort of the shape that we had in possession, because out of possession we did defend as a back four, weirdly enough, but in possession we sort of changed, which I found fascinating to watch, actually. But I do think we've seen a bit more possession. We had a bit more idea what to do with the possession as well.
We did. We looked a bit more flexible in that position at Everton on Sunday. And I think that was the first time we've seen Thomas Frank being a bit more flexible and a little bit adventurous, I think, with the way we lined up. It players seemed comfortable with it, which was great to see. I would play, it's been mentioned in the chat, but I think Kudus would play. I think, did he play in the 10 on Sunday? I think he played a bit there, didn't he? And I think he did really well there. I thought give him a bit more room to roam around a little bit and influence the game. The problem is we don't have wingers. Look, as good as Odegaard's trying, he isn't a world-class left winger, is he? And he hasn't got an end product. That will come. But the problem is Brennan Johnson offered nothing down the right-hand side. And then you're sort of stuck with going down one wing, down the left side, because the right side's not offering you anything. So you still got a problem. Do I play Kudus in the middle where he has played there before and played well? Do I have to play him on the right because you're going to need some offer down the right because Brendan Johnson doesn't offer you anything there?
Do you not think Johnson looked better though? I think a lot of fans were praising him, saying he looked a little bit better. I know Rain was praising him in the chat.
I didn't. I looked at that game and I did ask during the first half, where is he? Look, I call out to see it, Dave. Look, if he played well, I'd tell him he's played well. But he suddenly burst onto the scene in injury time, made that one block, and he really didn't do a lot in the game for me. He didn't stand out for me. He was very quiet. Maybe it's a confidence thing with him. Maybe he hasn't got confidence, but he isn't a winger. And then if you've got nothing down the right-hand side, you're sort of forced to go down the left-hand side. And then if you've got nothing there, where you're forced to go down the middle then. So I think Thomas Frank has to adjust it for him to make sure he gets the attacks where he can. But Brendan Johnson, for me, he didn't offer me anything on Sunday. I thought he was really poor, but that's just my opinion on him.
It's been like that all his whole Spurs career. It hasn't just been Sunday. It's not an anomaly. It's been like that his whole career. I mean, Sarr, what's your thoughts on the tactical setup? Because for me, I felt like, also, Bentancur passed forward a hell of a lot more. And I think that's no surprise or no coincidence that there was, in that setup, there was more bodies breaking forward. There was more passing options to be able to play into. And I really liked that, actually.
Yeah, I mean, look, we said it, I think, on the last game, on the last chat that I was on, and we sort of said it that, to me, we always look better when we have a real solid midfield rather than, I mean, I'm talking about now, not in general, but, rather than a sort of makeshift playmaker. I kind of want to see Kudus right, and I want to see Xavi left, and I want to see three strong players in the middle. So whether it's Sarr, whether it's Bergvall, whether it's Bentancur and Paulinho, I want to see that strong midfield and Kudus on the right. I don't want to see Kudus in the middle. I'm not saying he's not, he's not good enough or he's not ready, but he is outstanding on that right-hand side. And just give him that right-hand side. Forget Johnson at the moment. Just put him there. And
I want to, but
I do think.
He started.
Pardon?
I want to, but I can't. He started.
Well, yeah, but I mean, Johnson. I'm not saying Johnson didn't play well, and I think he did play better on Sunday. I totally disagree with Dermot, which is a very rare thing. Me and Dermot never disagree. Yeah, it's terrible.
I'm heartbroken now. Sorry.
I know, and I thought you would be. But no, I think Johnson was better. But look, I mean, the problem is Kudus is going to need a rest at some point. But if you just put him out there.
Copenhagen is the game to rest.
Yeah, that's my thought. We're early in the season, and that guy is just lighting it up on the right hand side. So to me. I mean, I don't know where it was, whether it was yourselves earlier on or something, but, about building teams around players, and could have been in one of the WhatsApp chats. And to me, you build a team around his strengths because he is probably one of the best players on the pitch for us at the moment, going forward. So you put him on that right-hand side. And look, if it does take 2 or 3 players out there to defend against him, surely that gives the rest of the team a bit of room to play. So
it does, but I think the problem is though, Sarr, they haven't capitalised on that space. Udabur had how much space? Hasn't produced anything. With Richarlison when he's played.
That's down to the rest of the team, though, isn't it? I mean, if we see that there's two players on him on the far right, then surely you play a lot down the left, and then that might bring them off him a little bit more. But look, to me, I think it's hard to say anything bad against the formation on Sunday, against Everton, because we came out with 3 points and it worked, and we did look better. But tonight's a totally different animal. It's, I don't know. To me, you kind of almost play on the break tonight and defend. You've got to put an absolute solid defensive team out there tonight. Make sure we don't lose it stupidly. And if we can hit them on the break, if we can score a goal like that, then that's the way tonight seems, for me, has to go. It's not about attacking. It's not about keeping the ball. It's about making sure we put one in the back of their net and they don't put any in the back of our net.
No, absolutely. Absolutely, 100%. I just want to say a big up to DJ AK in the house. Good to see you, my man. Hopefully you're keeping well. I was actually speaking about you last night on Pro Clubs. Someone was asking me who I was with at the parade. I was telling them I was with you all day, my man. Big up DJ AK. What an absolute gentleman. Good to see
Nick
you
as
in the
well,
house.
Lazy 8.
Guys, if you do have any talking points you want us to address or stuff like that, feel free to put them in the comment section, or feel free to make it a super chat. Make sure it stands out. Make sure everyone understands the point or the question you're trying to make and that people can't miss it. But look, we are going to crack on. But for me, just quickly, I would like to see that again out of possession. I think the 2 times I've seen us, or the 2 times I've enjoyed watching us most going forward in games, was the PSG game and also the game against Everton. I do think we produced a better football in possession than what we have done in yonks. And for me, I think maybe there's something to it. I would like to see that sort of again tonight against Newcastle. I think it could really work. I get what Sarr's saying about Kudus and it creates space for others, but I think the big problem is when they neutralise Kudus to neutralise Tottenham. So I think the whole idea was about freeing up Kudus on the weekend to try and go and cause damage, and I think it worked absolutely brilliantly. Ange Ball says, I'm not 100% sure that you really have to rest Kudus because he is a natural phenomenon, but you have to play Johnson at some point if we ever want to pull some decent money back for him when selling. See, I do understand what you're saying, but again, like, you're going to risk a cup competition for, keeping Johnson's value. For me, I don't care about that. At the end of the day, if players aren't working out, you're going to have to accept you have to take a loss. It's only at Tottenham where we feel like we shouldn't have to take a loss on players that haven't worked out or players that you're placing on the transfer list and wouldn't mind selling. We're constantly worried about retaining their value. For me, I don't care about his value. I care about tonight's game. So, look, to be honest with you, Chelsea game is on Saturday. I'll deal with it when it comes. Tonight for me is the most important game, the cup game. I want a good cup run. I think a good cup run will buy Frank a lot of time that he needs, within the fan base to really get all of these ideas across and stuff like that. And then Jason Bell says, I don't know, the more people see Johnson's, the less they want him. I mean, look, absolutely. I mean, I was at that point, very quickly once we seen this guy, to be fair. I just didn't see where naturally.
Just let him live off last season.
Yeah, let him live off.
Can I add something on that, Dave? Just very quickly on that. What you said was actually right, and I want to add on that. Tottenham have been so guilty over the years of being too nice when it comes to transfers, not being cynical, not being critical enough when players are not working out, getting rid of them there and then. And I think we have to get into that habit. You look at all the big teams that are really successful. If players are not working out, they get rid of them straight away. Either get rid of them in January or they tell them, right, you have to find a new club by next summer. We're not like that. We haven't got a big squad at the moment. So we've got a lot of injuries out. So we've got to use Johnson. But for me, what really got me about Johnson and changed my mind was that documentary James Madison did. And we talked about it on our podcast, that he was there larking around when James Madison was in getting his knee. That did it for me. That was the bit that really thought, no, I'm sorry, he hasn't got the mentality. And you got Gray next to him. He comes from a long line of very serious winning footballers. Eddie Gray, his father, and then his grandfather as well, both Leeds legends. Brennan Johnson's in there putting faces. I don't want to see my players play for my club doing that. You look at Cutie, you look at Bentancur, you look at all the other players, come over to James Madison. went back to what they were doing or training or.
It's just for me. You look at Van de Ven and Bergwall in and around similar ages, right? Is there any I look at their progression on the football pitch? They're not sitting there cradling up to Madison, calling him daddy, and popping up behind windows, pulling faces and stuff like that. And I just wonder why, because they're clearly focused on what they should be doing, and that's why you're naturally seeing it on the football pitch. Whereas these guys, and anyway, I have a real big problem with another man walking around calling another man daddy and stuff like that. Anyway, it's just. I just don't understand it. For me, you're all men in the same environment, supposedly for one common goal. I don't understand it. Anyway, it's baffling. But look, tonight isn't about Brennan Johnson unless he starts in the lineup. Then it probably could end up being the Brennan Johnson show. But look, we'll move on. I mean, it is knockout football tonight. I mean, the big question is, and I think Sarr already alluded where he would like to go with it tonight, but does Frank go pragmatic and keep things tight, or is this the perfect chance to build maybe off a bit of that attacking rhythm that we had away at Everton? Jack, we'll start with you.
Ooh, tough one. That is tough. I'd look to probably sit a bit more pragmatic against them. That's just the way I'm maybe wired, and also I just think that gives us a better chance to maybe take advantage of some space in behind that Newcastle could leave. Like, their only real athletic center back that they have is, I think, that guy Malik Tia, that guy from AC Milan. I do feel like you can get at Trippier if you leave a bit of space in behind. They don't have Livramento anymore, I believe, right? And so it's Dan Burn on the far side. I think if they try to sort of get deep into our half, and if we can hit them on the break with Kolo Muani, if we can hit them on the break with Kudus, I think you have some space that we can take advantage of. Whereas if we do try to press them, they do have like really good midfielders that can play out. Like Tonali and Guimaraes are just brilliant on the ball. Like, they are guys that are difficult to press because they can just play a nice first time pass, over the top, or they can sort of pick out maybe a moment under pressure that most other midfielders wouldn't. I would look to have a combative midfield that is going to more close the lanes, close the passing gaps, then really look to try to put the pressure on them. I'm not saying I'm correct, though, in this. This is just kind of the way I would go about it. Because I think if you do try to press this team high, they have space in behind with Gordon. They have space in behind with Voltamatas, Jacob Murphy, who I just heard the other day scored like 20 goals and assists in like the last season. He had a better season than Brendan Johnson did. So like, the guy's not really actually that bad of a player. And we didn't know they have that other guy, Alonga, as well, who's got tons of space or pace, sorry. So I would actually look to sit a bit deeper this game. But I know a lot of Spurs fans don't like to hear that, so I'm not going to claim to be right.
Yeah, look, I mean, Sarr and sort of the same opinion. So guys at home, let me know, Jesus, what way you think Tottenham should approach it. Do you think we should, be pragmatic, or do you think we should maybe show them a little bit less respect and go for them? Dermo, we'll let you have your say before you have to head off.
Show them less respect. If you show teams respect, then they're just going to walk alive you. We need to go up there and be beats. Be a bit of Mourinho, what he asked us to be, and stand up to them, show them no respect, and show them that we're not going to be a walkover. I think the way we played it, we showed that against Everton. We showed it bits against Leeds as well, that we won't be broken down. We won't be walked over. And I think we've got to do it tonight. We can put to bed a lot of bad memories of Newcastle tonight. And I think that's important. We've got to put to bed of them bad results in the past, where I think you said it, Jack, that some of these players have been around for the Newcastle, defeats or in the past. And we've got to put that to bed tonight. So it's so important. But yeah, I wouldn't pussyfoot around. Go up there, show them no respect, show them who we are, and go out and prove to them that we're the best team in the land. And and so I think that's what we should do. I've got to jump off. Sorry, guys, I'm going over to Tottenham TV. I know my fan club in the chat will be sorry to see me go. So see you later, lads. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please like and subscribe here. And if you can come over to my channel, do so. We've had a really good month. We're on the march to 3K. So if you can get over to there, please do enjoy me and Dave tomorrow for our podcast at 1.
Yeah. Big up, John.
Me and Dave talk all things, with a little bit about Celtic as well tomorrow, which I'm looking forward to get Dave's take on it. I did think the quote for Dermot Desmond was really hilariously funny and true. So that's my view on it.
Fair play to him. But Dermo, that's tomorrow's matters, my man. I'll speak to you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Have a good
Thank you,
evening.
Tron.
See you later, Jack. See you later, Sarn. Take care.
Good to have you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. For me, I think there is an element where we're going to approach the game with a bit of pragmatism. But what I don't want to see is what I've seen against Monaco, where we just set up mid-block and with no pressure on the ball whatsoever. We have to try and put pressure on certain players. Like, I'm not being funny. If you sit off Tonali tonight, you're just letting him pass the ball around at will. What he does is you getting close to him, upsetting him, taking the ball off. And players like that, they don't want that. He wants you to back off him and give him as much time as you can so that he can pick his paths all around the pitch. Once you start allowing him to do that, you're going to allow him to start dictating the tempo. Bruno Guimaraes, if he is within a 5-10 yard radius outside the box, get out and close him down. Don't stand off him and allow him to shoot. There's certain players tonight that I would like to get pressure on when they receive the ball. I just don't want to see us as passive out of possession as we were against Monaco, because all we've done against Monaco is we allowed them to rotate across the back line, put it out wide, and then cross the ball. We cannot get caught into that trap today because Newcastle will score off the back of it. So there are certain players I want to see us go and press today, because if you're just sitting back, you're almost sitting back waiting for the inevitable. At some point, you have to go and try and make your own luck. So for me, it's about using certain players and go and pressing them, realizing the danger when they're on the ball and put pressure on them, try and force them into a mistake, turn the ball over, and then look to hit them on the counter with a good swift move, or get yourself up the pitch, get a corner kick and absolutely rattle them that way. But what we can't do is, I can't stress this enough, what we done against Monaco. It would be a huge, huge mistake. Anyone else want to come in on that, or we move on?
I can move on.
Move on. Well, look, I mean, let's talk about sort of lineup today. I mean, we've got Chelsea at home on Saturday coming up. I think this has been a big debate all week. Do we want to see Frank, go full strength tonight, or should he trust the depth of his squad? And, hopefully that squad players step up. I mean, where are you with it, Sarn? Because you see already it's 50-50. Some people want Kudus rested. Some people say if you rest them, then we're just we've no intention of really going and winning this game. So where are you at with it?
I mean, my argument is with this, that if you look at a few players, to me, they're automatic put-ins. So Mwane, I know he started the last game, but to me, he's still a rotation in the sense that he hasn't played much this season. So you might as well start him. He's only played one game. He didn't look
frustrated coming off against Everton, though. I don't think he was ready to come off, was he? There was something there.
No,
he was having a good game.
With him showing frustration.
Yeah. But, that's why, to me, you start him tonight. Give him 60 minutes probably, and then bring him up again. And he's going to have to get used to that. And then Sarr for me needs to start tonight. And, there's a rotation that, in a sense, shouldn't be a rotation, because, to me, he's done enough to be starting most games this season. So...
On Sarr, just quickly, the celebration at the weekend, some people are, attributing it to, I think one of his friends was murdered or something like that. And they're saying that's why he didn't celebrate it. But I sort of look at it differently. I think, him being out of the lineup for so long, Thomas Frank asked about it, said, well, there's no real reason for it. I think personally he showed frustration towards maybe not being selected. Am I reading into it too much? How do you read into that?
No, I mean, as soon as he scored and walked away like he did, I looked at him and thought, that's a player that's not happy. Now, I've not, up till just now, I've not heard about, the other possibility. So, but I still even think, to me, had he lost a friend or whatever, he'd have done something as a sign to them rather than just walk away unhappy. It would have been, he'd have dedicated it to his friends, surely. But to me, I'm like you, I read into it thinking, he didn't look happy. And to me, that means, if there isn't a problem, Frank needs to start him tonight. Well, you've already got another rotation there. And to me, you still play probably Paulinho and Bentancur in the middle with him. So you've got a 3 decent, strong midfield. To me, Kudus has to start. As much as I'll be the first person to say, Chelsea at the weekend is very important and we can't not win or we can't lose against them. It's still, tonight is the next match. So we've got to think about tonight. And to me, it's an opportunity. We're not playing any mugs here. They're a decent team. So Kudus has got to start and for me, Simmons starts on the left. If it's Odebear, fair enough. I'm not that worried, but I'd like to see Simmons on the left and a strong defence. I mean, you know, we can't play Kuti, obviously, so it's almost, you're probably looking at the same back four, back five. Do we bring Kinsky in? To me, probably not. I don't, you know, I don't want to see that many changes tonight, but we've got to see a couple, but not too many. I mean, like I say, Mwan is going to be fresh. Bring Papsar, he's fresh. And then look, if we are in it and we're winning, bring somebody else on. But you know, to me, it's not a night to be. We're not playing mugs. We've got to play a strong team. It's not the night to rotate.
I'm sort of along the lines with that. For me, I think the goalkeeper, the back four, and the midfield need to stay the same. And I think Mo Kudus needs to stay in the team tonight if we want to try and go and win this game. But I'm okay with some rotations elsewhere, to be honest with you, if that's the case. Freshen it up further up the pitch. But the first half an hour is all about surviving at Newcastle. It's going to be aggressive. It's going to be a ferocious start. You could throw Kinsky in there, but I'm not being funny. He hasn't really handled big occasions before. I think it's a recipe for disaster. I think, you know, this minute they get a shot on goal, it'll go in and that'll set the tone for the rest of the evening. I think it's a night for someone with an experienced head like a Vicario, to be honest with you. I think you got to keep Kevin Danzo in there. It's going to be a night where you're going to have to defend crosses. Voltamata in there, Danzo's absolutely perfect. You know, I think you have to keep Rodrigo Bentancur and João Paulinho there. I think if you don't, I think we've come a little bit lightweight in midfield. I think, you know, the early pressure, the atmosphere will get to some of these players. You know, you go back to Galatasaray, you go back to the Rangers game in the Europa League last season when some of these youngsters played. The atmosphere killed them before the match even got going. And tonight could be very, very similar. So for me, you've got to keep your experienced heads in there tonight to survive the first half an hour. If he wants that 60 minutes, fine. Make 5 changes if that's what you want to do. Make all 5 substitutions. But you don't need to do it from the off tonight. It's all about bringing your most experienced players in and surviving that first half an hour. I mean, but Jack, where are you at? Because as you can see, the chat is split.
Yeah, it is. I'm surprised that people want to rest Kudus for this game. I personally, maybe it's just 2 different ways of looking at it. People really don't want to lose to Chelsea. I mean, it's just like, I would just take a draw against Chelsea, really. Like, I'd be happy to just sort of put whoever out there is willing to get put in a real hard shift, work hard for the team. I think it's a similar sort of thing with this game where you just got to put out there the guys that are really willing to sort of bring that fight, being willing to work hard for each other. But I think in a cup game, I personally would rather just have that extra bit of quality in the side, someone that you know can pop up with a goal, especially away from home, someone that you know can drive the team forwards, can create something out of nothing. So I think Kudus is clearly that man for us, and I would rather have him for this game than the Chelsea game. It's just Chelsea, maybe it's a defeatist mentality, but we've lost so many games against them that I just wonder if, you know, maybe you just rest him for the Chelsea game, or maybe you take him out early in the Chelsea game. You don't have to play him the whole 90 minutes. I just am of the mindset that I would rather win this game than win the Chelsea game, because the Chelsea game is in the league. I think you said to me in the back end, Dave, like you can make up for 3 points lost against Chelsea in the league than you can a 1-game knockout in the League Cup. I care more about staying in the League Cup than I do getting a result against Chelsea. But again, people are welcome to feel differently about this. It's just the way I sort of see out this season. I want to stay in this cup, and I think our best chance of doing that is having Kudus start tonight. I'm not even saying he needs to play all 90 minutes, but I do think he needs to start for us. And he is our best chance of creating something out of nothing. And against a team like Newcastle away from home, I think you need players like that. Whereas at the Chelsea game, I believe we are going to be at home. Maybe you can get away with someone, you know, taking advantage of the home crowd and just being fresh legs for that game. In my opinion.
No, look, for me, I just don't understand why it's got to be one or the other. You take each game as it comes. At the end of the day, we made more than enough rotational changes. We rested players against Bodo, by the way, sacrificed an extra 2 points there. So why can't these players play 2 games in a row tonight? Some of them were rested against Burnley, first game of the season. There's been other games where other players have been dipped in and out. Players have been rested. Why can't he put out his strongest team for 2 games in a row, given the magnitude of the games? The early games allowed for rotation. This is a period where he's got to stick to his best 11, in my opinion. You know, and I don't understand why you can't start with it and then make substitutions later on in the game. I don't understand why there's a big rush to get players in. Just quickly, like Adrian says here, David, I get that. unused players need game time to keep them happy. But at what cost? At the fans' expense, where we get dumped out of another cup? I'm not being funny. Some of these guys were given an opportunity against Doncaster. They pissed about for this whole second half for the next 45 minutes. They were given a chance against Bodo. They couldn't even carve out an opportunity. We had to bring Kudus and that off the bench to save their ass. So when these big games come around in the cup where you don't have the opportunity to rotate, and they haven't produced in other games like Doncaster and Bodo, I don't back them to do anything tonight. And therefore, if you play them tonight, you're effectively saying, I'm just tossing the cup. That's effectively what you're doing, because you're putting out players that are going to let you down.
Aren't they unused for a reason?
Here.
Sorry? No, I cut you off. I was going to say they're unused for a reason, though.
Exactly.
Like, because they haven't proved themselves and they haven't shown enough to Thomas Frank that they deserve the starts in big games like this. So it's not like you just, like you said, pass out minutes just for the sake of it to keep them happy. Like, we're talking about high-level elite football here. Like, it's not just a charity match where you're just going to give guys minutes here and there to keep them happy in really high-risk games. Like, you play the players that you have confidence in. If he doesn't have confidence in some of these guys, like, let's say a Johnson or whatever, that's their fault. That's not Thomas Frank's fault.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dave. I did cut you off, though.
No, it's just like, I agree. It's just not a charity. At the end of the day, they got opportunities against Doncaster. They didn't do enough. They were happy with the 3-1. They didn't want to be ruthless. They didn't want to, go and put 4 or 5 by them and then put their hand up 4 games like tonight. They rested on their laurels. Against Bodo, they were shit. They're the opportunities that they've had. They can't sit there and say they've been unused. They've been given opportunities, and if they took them, they would be in contention for a night like tonight, or fans would be asking for them to play on a night like tonight. The reason why I'm not is because they haven't took their minutes previously, and tonight is a massive game that if you don't play your best lineup, you are going to get dumped out. You're not really giving yourself an opportunity. It's not Doncaster we're playing tonight where you can go, right, you know what? All of you just go out there. If all goes to tits up, we'll bring on the best players with 20 minutes to go, and we'll go and win the game. Tonight, you don't get that opportunity. Tonight,
the thing is,
it's against a real good team.
Thing is, Dave, it's all right. People saying, bring Kudus on with 20 minutes to go, but the game could be gone by then. And look, how many times does Tottenham fans tell us we're a big team, but we don't act like a big team? Well, so we're going to act like a big team and put a weakened squad out there tonight in a big game. Playing the likes of Newcastle at home, Chelsea, blah, blah, blah. They're not the teams that you put big rotations into. They're the teams that you put your strong teams out. They're the teams that you go to try and win the game, not think, if we put, some kids out there, look, if we lose, it's all right because we put the kids out. No, tonight is not about that. It's about going out there and making sure we don't lose and we come away and we're in the draw for the next round. If we lose tonight, we haven't got another chance. That's it. We're out.
Exactly.
So, to me, it's not about, we're what, 10, 12, 14 games or whatever into a season, and we're talking about having to heavily rotate because our players might be tired. I don't get it. I really don't get it. We can sit here and say, right, to me, and I know it's not going to be a common thought through Tottenham fans, but to me, tonight's a perfect one for Richie because he'll be a dogged little player, but he won't, he's not the right player for us. Moani probably is the right player because he is fresh. He's trying to get his fitness up there. He's a rotation in a sense. But then do we play Richie on Saturday, sorry. There's a chance to rotate probably 1 or 2 players, 3 players maximum, and still put our strongest team out there. And that's the way, to me, we do it. And all these people saying, well, Saturday's more important. Wait till the end of the game tonight. If we've lost, it'll be half of them lot coming out shouting about Frank needs to be sacked.
But it's just, I guarantee you half the people calling for all the rotational changes tonight were livid when we got dumped out of the cup against Fulham when we made 11 that night. So, look, for me, I agree with you. 2 or 3 tonight, 2 or 3 against Chelsea, fine. If you want, then rest it all 11 against Copenhagen. I couldn't give a fuck. But these 2 games, massive, massive games, these are the games that the big players want to play in. These are the games that they're in football for. You put your best team out there tonight and give yourself a chance for winning. I'm not saying don't rotate anyone, but I'm saying just be clever with it tonight. Don't just give minutes for the sake of giving minutes to anybody. If you're going to put that 11 out there, put it out there at belief that it's good enough to go and win that game tonight. Less known says, Dave, you starting to think Xavi's too small for the Prem? I don't think he's too small for the Prem. Look, people act like you have to be a certain size to be in Modric, one of the best players I've ever seen play.
Yeah.
Tiny. Robbie Keane, one of the best strikers I've ever seen in the Premier League. Small. Jermaine Defoe, one of the best finishers I've ever seen. Small. You don't have to be big. You just have to be good. And I think Xavi Simmons is a good player. I just think he needs time to adjust. When you come to the Premier League, it's a little bit different. I'm sure against, up against Aston Villa, Onana man-marked him for the first 45 minutes. Didn't even allow him to feel his way into the game. But did Xavi do enough to evade his marker? It's stuff like that that's going to happen to him that he hasn't experienced before, that he's going to have to learn from. And this is going to be the big question. Does he have football IQ? Because Modric had to do it when he came to the Premier League. Other players have spoken about it. When Tottenham signed Modric, they used to laugh at the guy. This guy's never going to survive in the Premier League. And for the first while, he struggled a little bit. Yeah. But then he realised, okay, when instead of taking the ball with them right up my hole, separate myself 5-10 yards, that way I get time to get turned, and I'm going to bite them. They're the little things that Xavi Simmons now needs to learn. And, will he? That's the big question. For me, the quality was never really in doubt. I just always realised that it was too much pressure to put on the kid's shoulders, that he's going to be the answer to all of Tottenham's attacking problems. And that's where I think the frustration is coming in around now, where people are going, he's not what he's being hyped up to be and stuff like that. For me, I think the talent is there. The guy can control a ball. He can pass a football. He can cross a football. All the basics there that you want from a player in the forward line that looks comfortable in possession is all there. It's just about adapting to the speed that he has to do it at now, but also the physicality. He has to be able to make these passes while holding off a player. He has to be able to play these passes quicker than maybe what he's had to in Germany and stuff. And also in the Premier League, you might only get one opportunity to have that impact. In other leagues, he would have had multiple opportunities. So it's a massive difference. There's many things that this guy has to adjust to, on top of already going to one of the biggest cities in the world that just doesn't sleep. It's 24/7. I go there and I'm overwhelmed after 2 days. I can't wait to get back home to my bog in fucking silence and peace and tranquility. There's that much going on. So I can only imagine what it's like for this guy with all the pressure of being the attacking answer for Tottenham Hotspur in terms of picking up the slack that Harry Kane and others and Son and that have left behind them. Big up, Faz Radfar. Good to see you as well. Hopefully, your keeping well. Says 4-1 win tonight shouldn't be in question. We've got this from Paul Markey. Biggest worry, Fiskovic saying he wants Real Madrid. We need to get him back playing in a Spurs shirt and quick. On this one, from my understanding of what I've been reading that's been put out there by journalists like In the Know and Ali Gold and stuff, is that Fiskovic pushed for this move. He didn't want to sit around, waiting for game time. I think from what I read, he pushed for this move internally. He wanted to get out there and play week in, week out. And to be fair, you don't really blame the kid. At 15, 16, he was playing week in, week out in Croatia. At 17, week in, week out in Poland. Same again in Belgium. Why would he want to come to the Premier League then all of a sudden and start not playing? It's a very hard thing to sort of get used to. So I think he pushed for this move. However, looking at the injury crisis we've got now, we could do with him around the place. And is it one that maybe we've got wrong? And we should have said, look, initially, maybe the opening month or two, you might not get many games. October, November, December, January, February, there's going to be a hell of a lot of games for you. So stick with us, stay fit. Maybe I think we've got that one wrong. But the fact that he's already twerking for Real Madrid is a huge, huge problem, because I've made no secret about it. This is why we've got to tie Mickey van der Ven down to a new contract. Real Madrid, Rudiger and Alba are getting on. They're going to be, the centre-back market is coming. Bayern Munich are also looking for new centre-backs. Arsenal are in the market for centre-backs. Liverpool are in the market for centre-backs. All the big clubs are in the market for centre-backs, which means there's a centre-back market coming. So we need to tie Mickey van der Ven down and hopefully keep this guy on our books as well, Paul Markey. To be honest with you, after the Reading game, seeing how handy he was from set pieces, I'm actually quite surprised Frank didn't want to keep him around and utilise him a bit more. Because if you look at the height of Mickey van der Ven and what he's doing, imagine what Fiskovic could do. Like, there's no one that can outjump that guy. He's like 6'8". It's absolutely ridiculous, Paul Markey. He should be in the NBA. We got this from Jamal Duncan. Says, forget tired. We have injuries. You have to rotate. Kudus has already started to look sluggish. Can't play every game, in his opinion. What I will say is, although we are having this discussion, there's like 14 or 15 players missing tonight. There's only so much that Thomas Frank can actually realistically do in terms of the rotation. But I get what you're saying. Like, Kudus did look a bit tired coming off the pitch the other night. But why can't you put him out there for 60 minutes tonight? Why can't you put him out there for 90 against Chelsea and rest him against Copenhagen? Like, I'm okay with resting players, but you pick and choose what games you think you can get away with it.
Yeah.
You don't just throw a game against a big team and go, because it's got Carabao Cup written across it, and go, oh, it's okay, we can take our best players out. You have to understand the magnitude of this game, how difficult it's been when we had Dyer, Davies, Lloris, more senior players, how difficult they found it at St. James's Park away when they've been slapped up 6-1, when Postecoglou's side was slapped up 4-0 last year, let alone throw these, because to be honest with you, if you throw these guys out there, the first 30 minutes, this game would be done and dusted if you throw the youngsters out there tonight, and all of a sudden you could be looking at another scoreline like that. And I don't think you're actually helping a kid's career in that regard. I actually think you're scarring them a little bit. You're maybe making them a bit more scared as well, because us Spurs fans, you got to forget, we don't care who's out there. We're very unforgiving if results don't go our way, regardless of the age, regardless of how long they're here or who they are. We are very unforgiving. So tonight, I think you'll be doing them a disservice by throwing them out there and going survive.
The other thing, Dave, the other thing is, look, if we go out there and we play a heavily rotated team tonight and we lose, say, 2-0, 3-0, you know, not a massive loss, but, well, surely we're better going to Chelsea on Saturday having a win under our belts, bit of confidence, thinking that's 2 wins in a row, let's go for a third. I don't understand the mentality of, oh, we're playing a big team, so let's put our weakened squad out. I just don't get that. I mean, to me, like you just said, you pick and choose your teams that you rotate against. Tonight is not a team to rotate against. It's, you know, you play a cup game and you've got one chance of going into the next round. Well, surely you've got to take that, you know, and it doesn't matter whether Newcastle are rotating or not. They probably will rotate some players, but to me, tonight is not a game where you think, oh, Kudus needs a rest, let's give him a rest. And to come out and say, oh, well, if we keep playing him, he's going to get injured. Well, what happens if we rest him tonight and play him against Chelsea on Saturday and he gets injured on Saturday? So what's the excuse then?
He's out for like 8 weeks.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So somebody brought up, well, look at Maddison last year, you know, or this year he's injured. Well, Maddison didn't play every game last season. He was in and out, in and out, in and out. So, you know, the argument about being, you know, playing every game. Mickey van der Ven, he doesn't get injured because he's tired. He gets injured because he's the type of player that has to put his body on the line, running. Runners do the hamstrings. It's a natural fact. When you're sprinting like Mickey van der Ven does, your hamstrings go. And he could play 1 game a season, and the chance of his hamstring going in that type of situation is the exact same. So
yeah. Best players also. Yeah, you know, you take it, Dave. Sorry.
No, go on. What I was just going to say to Jamal is, look, I understand it, right? We were in this situation last year and the injuries kept on piling up. I fully understand it.
Yeah.
Right. And I fully get the urgency around it. But the reality is, we've seen players that haven't been playing that are still picking up injuries, training and stuff like that. So the reality is, you could rest him, you could pick up an injury in training tomorrow or the next day, and all of a sudden you don't see him for weeks. You know, so I don't think, you know, by pulling them out, you're necessarily protecting them the way people think they are. Sorry, Jack.
No, I completely agree with you. And I mean, Jamal, like, I think you've raised a valid point. I think Dave's also right to say that we have this trauma from last season, right, with all the injuries. So I think that's where it's coming from. And that's totally understandable. It's like kind of the benefit of hindsight type of thing. But in the big games, this is the biggest game of the season, I think, in my opinion. You play your best players in the big games, even if they are tired, even if they are potentially a bit leggy. You can rotate them out, you know, in the second half if need be, if they're showing that legginess. But your best players play more often than the players who aren't as good as them. It's just kind of how it is. Like, that is part of being your best player, is that, you know, you're going to play more minutes than other people. You know, you're going to go into games tired. You know, you might not be up for it certain games, but you know, you're being paid the big bucks. You're being, you know, sort of the talisman of the team for a reason, because we trust you in the bigger games than the other players. And that's just sort of the simple facts of of sport in general.
And that's what I love about all these docu-series coming out, where you really get a glimpse inside with the athletes inside clubs and, teams and stuff like that, because you are seeing exactly what you're saying there, Jack, that, the best players realize the demands and the pressure on them, and they're not actually sitting there asking for rest or anything. They want to play. They don't care the magnitude of the game. They want to play. Thomas Frank said it recently. Players want to play games. They don't want to be training. They want to play games. And I'm not being funny, but if I was Kudus tonight and I was resting and the team went out, I'll be absolutely livid. I'll be livid with Thomas Frank, and I'll be livid with all them players that stepped in. And I'll be so annoyed, because at the end of the day, players want to win trophies. That's what they remember at the end of their career.
Yeah.
Well, some of their biggest regrets is not getting over the line, and when they're in situations where they had an opportunity and stuff. And at the end of the day, I think Kudus would be absolutely livid if we went out tonight and didn't play. Personally, I think he questioned then, how badly does this club want to win trophies and stuff like that. I think Doncaster, right game to rest players. I actually argued Frank should have rotated more against Doncaster.
Yeah.
But tonight, because of the way the draw is, I don't think you're going to get away with it. And that's why I would say, that's why I'm dead set against it, Jamal. Big up Dr. Spurs 82. Good to see you, new YouTube member. Hopefully you're keeping well. If you want, put your real name in there and we'll try and remember it every time you come in the chat. Usually we're locked in like that. But big up the Dr. Spurs. Really appreciate the support. And he also says, love your guys' channel and just become a member. Most balanced channel on YouTube. 2-1 Spurs tonight and Xavi to score.
Come on.
Do you know what? Really appreciate that. That's actually a compliment I haven't heard in quite some time, actually, about being balanced and stuff like that. So I really do appreciate it. Very good indictment of the channel. So very, very kind of you. Now, look, what I will say is, along the road, I can have some crazy takes. 9 times out of 10, people call me deluded, but they end up being true. But also, sometimes we can get passionate behind topics. But the most important thing is we listen to each other. Just don't switch off because you don't like an opinion of one or the other. At the end of the day, we speak so much every day about it. There's always going to be an opinion that you don't like or whatever, but just give us a fair shake, and you've done that. So big up, Dr. Spurs. Really appreciate that, my man. And then we also have Faz Radfar says, I feel we see a change of formation to a 3 at the back.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not opposed against it tonight, to be honest with you. I'm really not opposed against it. I've argued I would like to see exactly what we've done against Everton, especially in possession, turn into that back 3 and sort of get extra bodies going forward, because I think it's a way we can break on Newcastle tonight and carry a threat and get a way of getting up the pitch rather than just absorbing pressure all night long, to be honest with you, Faz Radfar. So big yourself up, my man. I mean, Jack, back 3 tonight, would you be dead against it? And by the way, this is coming from a guy that hates back 3, back 5.
Yeah, maybe that's an example of Dave being balanced right there, right in front of you. I wouldn't be against it. I think we could see a version of it, though, like you said, in possession. We could see either Porro or Spence maybe tuck in with the center backs and play, sort of alongside them in possession. And then out of possession, it's more of a back 4. But, it doesn't have to be a rigid back 3, back 5 like we saw against PSG. But I wouldn't be against it either. I don't know, though, if Newcastle posed that really attack threat like maybe PSG did, because PSG, they played basically a million midfielders and of an attacking sense. They had Desiree Doué playing as a number 10, through the middle. Then they had Kavicha, all these other guys, playing up front. So the back 5 almost made sense with how many attackers they were putting in the team. Whereas with Newcastle, I'm not too sure if you're going to see that. You might see more of a regimented 4-3-3 type of shape, really. So I don't know if it's necessary in this game. I'm not against it either, though, to be honest.
Well, big up, Faz Radfar. Really appreciate it.
We're waiting on the Spurs lineup, but I don't see the... but there's the Newcastle
one. The Newcastle one's out. They've made 8 changes to their lineup. Ramsbottom comes in goals. Fabian Sarr at centre-back. Tonali retains his place in midfield. Barnes will be out on one wing. Tiaz is centre-back as well. Full-back. Kraft, I think, will play as well in the back line. And Angle will probably play down one side. Voltemad up front. And then Willock will be in the midfield along with Ramsey. And then Byrne also across the back line. So 8 changes made by Newcastle with Pope, Trippier, Botman, Jolinton, Gordon, Asula, Murphy, Bruno Gomes, and young Miley all on the bench. So that is the Newcastle team to take on Tottenham tonight. Even more of an opportunity for Tottenham to go at full strength and try and punish Newcastle for taking us so lightly. That's what I would absolutely love to see tonight. But I mean, Yeah, look, Newcastle have made a whole host of changes tonight, which hopefully, if we pick the right lineup, we could go and win this game tonight, which gives me a lot of hope. A big up Paul V as well as becoming a new YouTube member.
Thank
you,
Paul.
Really appreciate the support, Paul. Good to see you. Look, you've been around a long time. You're always in and out of here, Paul. I often do wonder what you get up to or what you work as when you just go away for ages and then you pop back in and stuff like that. Big up, Paul. Good to see you. And guys, let's have a quick talk about the back line while we're waiting for this Tottenham lineup to come out. So I suppose, I mean, look, the Tottenham defence has quietly become one of the most solid in the league. I mean, is this down to the work of Frank and his coaching staff and what they've done with the players, or and on the training pitch, or down to the quality of players we have to select from? Because personally, I think it's a bit of both. I've always argued I think the quality was there in terms of the individuals. I think the ability was there to always keep a lot more clean sheets than what we did on the range.
Yeah.
But also, I think you have to acknowledge the work that Frank has done in terms of, I think he's made Mickey van de Ven an all-round better defender. I think, you know, he managed to get Romero to sign the contract, I think, which was absolutely huge. Although I still have my gripes with Power defensively, he is better than what we've seen in years gone by and stuff like that. So I think, you know, and also the structure that he's put in place, I think he's also made them more combative from set pieces as well, which I think is absolutely huge. So fair credit to Thomas Frank and his coaching staff. But the Tottenham lineup is out, and as you can see...
Sorry, Dave, that was a great question you were asking, but, you know, the lineup did just come out.
But as you can see, the glorious yellow kit is in action tonight, which I absolutely can't wait. No Papamata Sarr, which is already pissing me off, but taking away, Jack, what's the lineup here?
Kinsky coming in for Vicario. Big call there. Is Vicario even on the bench? It doesn't look like it. It's Austin and Gunter on the bench there. So Kinsky is going to be given.
Well, Sarr isn't. Come
on. But Danzo, Paulinho, Xavi Simmons makes the team. Richarlison is on instead of Colomwani. Bergvall is in there. Johnson is in there. Pedro Porro, Sarr, Bentancur. Sarr is in there, Dave. I would say, actually, the people that wanted a lot of rotation for this game have gotten what they wanted. And so we'll see if it pays off for us, because
no Van de Ven.
No Van de Ven. Yeah, also good call there, Dave. I didn't notice that one.
So
I mean, he's gone for a ton of rotation. So people that asked for it, you got it.
Be interested to see how this works out. So it's Kinsky in goals. Danzo will obviously be at centre back with Spence and Porro at either side fullback, which I presume Paulinho then moves into the centre back alongside Danzo, which then means you'll see Johnson off the right. Yeah, Bentancur, sorry, and Sarr.
And Bergvall.
Yeah, and Bergvall in the midfield with Johnson off the right, Xavi off the left, and Richarlison through the middle. Now, look, very easily this could be, you know, Danzo with Porro, Spence, you know, sort of turning into that back three like we've seen against Everton. It could very easily work out like that with Paulinho actually playing in the midfield. So it could very well be a 3-5-2 either, guys. It'd be very interesting to see what way we set up and stuff like that. I think it sort of leaves it open to interpretation. But that's what Thomas Frank does when he throws that curveball against Everton in the way we set up in possession, which I suppose if we're sitting here guessing what it is, I guess only Newcastle managers are sitting there, you know, wondering the same thing, trying to work it out and stuff like that. I mean, Jack, quite a few changes in there. What's your thoughts?
I'm not too happy with it because I was in the camp of wanting to not rotate that much, to be honest, really. I think playing Richarlison is going to hurt us unless he pulls off a worldie and, you know, I just end up having egg on my face. I would love to. But Colomwani, we saw the difference in Colomwani versus Richarlison. Like, the attack looks so much better with Colomwani. So I am surprised that Richarlison's being rolled out here, because I just think Richarlison, he hasn't done anything out of possession or in possession and isn't even working that hard, in my opinion, which I would never say about Richarlison, but I do think that's the case. He just seems to be playing within himself. Xavi Simmons instead of Kudus, we'll see if Xavi Simmons can step up for this, because we need some sort of creativity. So it's going to have to come through Xavi Simmons. I don't mind playing Sarr and Bergvall together. They have played well together before, so that can work. And then Johnson, you know what I think of Johnson, really. So let's see if he can pop up this game. I'm just really worried about that front three, because you would say all three of them have been pretty dreadful. Like Johnson, like I said, you know my thoughts on the guy, doesn't contribute very much. Richarlison has played quite poorly, in my opinion, the past few games. And then Xavi Simmons as well. Xavi Simmons hasn't played too well, in my opinion. So I am worried about that front line being able to create anything, really. So maybe it will be goals from Sarr and Bentancur this game. That would be my prediction. If we're going to score some goals, it'll come through them.
For me, I just wonder, have we learned a lesson in past? Because in the past, Newcastle have pressed us really aggressively. And when we've gone long ball, Richarlison hasn't been able to hold it up. Johnson hasn't been able to hold it up. And I don't think Xavi Simmons is going to be able to do that either. There is going to be a part tonight where we are not going to be able to play through them. They are going to come at us nice and aggressive, press us nice and high. And we are going to resort to long ball. But my concern is we don't have the players in that front line that are known for holding up that ball. So I would just wonder, how are we actually going to get out? Are we going to pick up free kicks and relieve pressure? Is it just going to be one way for the first 45? And then you look at the youthfulness of the lineup. Are they going to be able to withstand that? Huge question marks I have around this lineup. But I mean, Soren, what do you make of it? Some people are looking at it and going, do you know what? That's a 4-3-3. Other people are looking at it going, that's a 3-5-2. What do you think the formation is today?
This is why I'm not a Premiership manager. I do not like that lineup at all. After last night, I think this is part 2 of my nightmare. So,
don't say that.
Look, I don't see where the goals are coming from. I see a back 4, back 5 that have never played together. And I think sort of where you chaps were talking on the last question of, the defence and looking stronger. I think a lot of that had to do with the fact you had Palhinha in front of them, giving them that extra kind of help. Whereas now you've put Palhinha probably as a centre back by the look of things. And where's the strength in front of him?
Yeah, true.
Look, I kind of look at this and
no Odegaard in the squad and no Vicario in the squad at all.
No Van der Ven is on the bench. Sorry, I just see a big meltdown in 2 hours' time, 3 hours' time, whatever it is, because as it's not a team that fills you with, jubilation, and you don't look at that team and think, we're going through this tie, not easily, but there are questions, and I hope Thomas Frank, obviously he's the manager of Tottenham Hotspur, that's his job, and he knows more than I do, and I hope he proves me right tonight, because I don't see this team being in the next round.
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, I suppose I think, to balance out, Newcastle have made 8 changes. Hopefully there's an element that they might be disjointed, inside the first 15, 20 minutes, which would then hopefully quieten down their crowd, and it might actually work in our favour. But look, he's given them a run out. At the end of the day, we're going to have to get behind it now, see what they can do. But like I said, I hold my concerns. Are they going to be able to survive the first half an hour in terms without making mistakes with that hostile atmosphere and the aggression that Newcastle are going to come at us with? And also, do we have the quality to be able to relieve a bit of pressure? Huge question marks around it, where the goal is going to come from as well. But at the end of the day, I suppose, look, these are the options that we got. This is the squad that we've got. We've got a load of injuries. It seems like he's protecting a lot of players for the game against Chelsea. I really hope that Odegaard and Vicario haven't picked up injuries, and that's why they're not in the squad. Because if you look at the bench, I mean, you've got Mickey Van der Ven to come on, Mawani, Kudus, and Tell. I suppose you could argue they could be game changers, but outside of that, I mean, if Kinsky doesn't have a good half, you're bang in trouble. Austin and Gunter to come in, don't have great experience. But also, you off the back of that, you got Boswell, Olasesi, Dane Scarlett.
It's not a deep bench.
Not a deep bench either. So, I mean, look, it probably shows a bit how threadbare we are, I suppose, at the minute as well. And maybe some would argue these were maybe forced upon Thomas Frank tonight. Let's see how it goes down, though. We are only about less than an hour from kickoff. We're going to take a short break here. We'll be back 1:30, giving you your watch along. We'll have everything up on screen for you guys during it, the stats, lineups, everything else. You don't need to go anywhere. We have it all here. We're like mini Sky Sports over here at this rate. And then we have this from Paul Markey. He says, how the F does that waste of space Johnson keep getting selected? I mean, look, I grew up for an era where you had to earn your selection. This is why I sort of struggle with this modern day where it's like, just give them minutes. Even at grassroots level, growing up and stuff, you had to earn your minutes. You had to justify being picked. You had to justify playing. It wasn't just given to you. The manager didn't just look at a game and go, oh, well, fuck all these guys out there. You sit there and relax and stuff like that. It just didn't happen, So I'm sort of baffled by it a little bit that we just keep giving out minutes. It feels like we're almost like a charity. You know, I'd understand if you're giving out the minutes that have genuinely made impacts off the bench or when they've been given their opportunity to have impact games. I'd have no problem with it whatsoever. You'd say, do you know what? Give him his opportunity. He deserves it back off what he's done in previous games. Some of these guys, I've questioned what they've done in previous games to earn the minutes in such a high stakes game like tonight. But look, Paul Markey, I guess that's why I'm not a Premier League manager and I just sit here and give my opinion in it, my man. So big up Paul Markey. Good to see you. By the way, what do you think of people saying Johnson played a little bit better on the weekend? I'll leave that with you for the next 20 odd minutes and get back to me on the watch along, Paul Markey, because I'm sure you'll have opinions on that. But look, guys, I think we're going to.
And then also Davy Shire was in.
Davy Shire sneaking in here. Big up, Davy. Good to see you, sir. Hopefully you're keeping well. Member for 24 months. G'day, Dave, Jack, Soren. Come on, you effing Spurs. I do miss that Australian g'day, by the way. I do miss it. Good to see you, Davy. Hopefully you are keeping well. Hopefully you're a bit, in a better place now. I know you weren't too well last time we spoke and that, and hopefully the family and that are keeping well. Good to see you, Davy. Big game tonight. What time are you watching it in Australia? Is it a nice time of the day for you? Let me know. Anything you want to say, Jacko?
Big up, Mr. Shire. Good to have you with us. And please bring us some good luck if you can for this game. I'm a little bit worried about this lineup, but if you saw in the chat, Davy Shire, it was a huge split. There were a lot of people that actually wanted pretty much all these changes. So I hope I hope those are proven right. I don't want us to be proven right at the end of the day, because then that would mean a bad result. So I hope the people that wanted this amount of rotation are proven right. And best of luck as well to Kinsky today, Davy Shire. This is arguably, I think, the biggest game of the season. And, he's gone with a lot of changes for, in my opinion, the biggest game of the season. So we'll see if it pays off. Big up to you, Mr. Shire. Bring us some good luck, please, if you can.
Big up, Mr. Shire. Big up, Alberto as well. Great to see you. Giddy Apps as well. Good to see you. And then also, Paul Markey says, what at knitting? Yeah, fair play, my man. Well, look, guys, that's it from us. Like I said, we'll see you back here, in about half an hour's time for the watch along. Hopefully we can all enjoy it together and it can be a great night where we're all singing songs and acting silly. That'll be absolutely fantastic. But that's it from myself, Jack, and Soren. A massive thank you to Soren and Dermot for their time this afternoon. Really, really appreciate that, especially Soren, by the way. He's had a nightmare 24 hours off the back of a really tough sort of 6 months and that as well. So fair play to you for turning up tonight. The commitment is absolutely insane. I want to say a massive thank you to all you guys at home as well, continuing to tune in your numbers. Really, really do appreciate that. And also get involved in the conversation, which is absolutely essential. This is what this is all about. And then to the people who have gone the extra mile, and it really, really helps the channel out. Daniel Field, big yourself up. Sonan, big yourself up. Mark Cook as well. Good to see you. Moondog, Paul Markey, Jamal, Dr. Spurs, Faz Radfar, Paul V, and Mr. Shire. Really appreciate all of you guys. Go and get your beers out, get your sandwiches made. We'll see you back here in about 15, 20 minutes, as fucking always. Come on, you Spurs. Big game tonight.
Come on, you Spurs. Come on, the lads. Get a result here. On to the cup.